Green Warrior, are you ready to take your plant-based cooking to the next level? Please
Yes.
join us. We all are, because we're going to unlock the secrets to effortless cooking and meal prep with expert tips and hacks from Chef Vicky, who is also going to do an espresso oatmeal cookie demo for us. Yum! I cannot wait for that. We're going to be doing a recipe demo in a little while for your espresso oatmeal cookies. We're also going to be talking about food prep hacks and cool kitchen gadgets. These are the things that people like Chef Vicky and myself, it took us a while to learn about these kinds of things. And we now have all this information in our arsenal, and Chef Vicky's going to share some of that with us today. And I'm even going to
You know, we each have our favorite things after a while, I think. And so I think that sometimes finding a few little hacks can kind of make the difference between making it feel kind of like difficult work in the kitchen and just, or having, a handy helper. So sometimes just something very, very convenient, kind of like the right tool for the right job, just can make all the difference in making it much more pleasurable when we're trying to build the inventory in our refrigerator and freezer that we'll enjoy all week long.
Okay. Well, to get us started, because we're going to be having this recipe demo coming up, we're going to have our game of true or false that's going to teach us a little bit about cooking and tips and so forth, too. So let's try it.
It's time for True or False on Be Green with Amy Live. Answer true or false to Amy's questions in the comments below, and Amy will ask our guest for the expert answer.
Okay, Green Warrior, get ready. True or false? Storing fresh herbs wrapped in damp paper towel in the refrigerator can help extend their shelf life. A lot of us buy fresh herbs from the store. Some of us have little herb gardens on our windowsill or in the backyard, and that's a good thing to know about. What do you think, Green Warriors? Type in your guess, and Chef Vicky, tell us what the answer is.
I would say the answer to that is a big true, except for basil, which I like to store just on the counter at room temperature instead.
That's very interesting. That's good to know. I am actually growing some herbs in my garden, so sometimes I wonder what is the best way to store basil. So that's very good to know. Thank you for telling me that. Okay, get ready. Here's the next one. True or false? One way to store whole lemons long-term is to freeze them. What do you think, Green Warriors? Oh, Chef Vicky's going to answer that with me because we talked about this prior to the broadcast. So do you want to chime in?
So, Amy, I don't have any experience with that. I do something different. And so tell me what you do with freezing lemons.
Okay, so this is a great topic that we're talking about because oftentimes in delicious recipes, lemons will come in as a recipe ingredient. And oftentimes, if we have them, maybe they're not in very good shape. They might be getting moldy or whatever. Or some of us have learned a hack about freezing lemons in a different way, but sometimes it can be a little bit of a hassle. So my tip, and Chef Vicky's going to tell her tip about lemons too. My tip that I learned was that you could take fresh lemons that you buy in the store, clean them off, dry them with a towel, and just toss them in the freezer. Or you could put them in a Ziploc bag and just toss them in the freezer. And then when you are ready to use them, you can take one out. And if you want, you can cut it in half first, or you can just take the whole lemon, pop it in the microwave. Now, my microwave, I do maybe about 20 to 30 seconds. Everybody's microwave is going to be a little bit different in the power that you have. And there you have it. Now you can squeeze fresh lemons, and it works for limes too. So we talked about this before the broadcast, Vicky and I, and she gave me some of her hacks about lemons. So why don't you tell us about your hacks?
So I love that idea, Amy, because I haven't tried freezing a whole lemon before, but I definitely will now. But I I think this was during COVID that I started to kind of try to discover some way to make sure I had all my ingredients on hand in the pantry when it was a little bit harder to, find what we might have needed back then. But since then, I've enjoyed this so much, I've kept it on hand. So in case I don't have a lemon, my backup is this organic lemon freeze-dried powder. It is literally one ingredient, organic freeze-dried. Let's see what it says. Yeah, organic freeze-dried lemon powder. It's a single ingredient, and it is available in a bunch of different companies make it. But this one's organic, and so I like that. And I bought it on Amazon. It lasts for a very long time. This expires December 2025. 1 teaspoon of powder plus 2 tablespoons of water equals 1 lemon. And so I find this just really handy to have as a backup for those times I might not have fresh lemon on hand. And it also kind of reduces the stress of feeling like I better run out and get a lemon for something to finish off in a recipe because I know I've got this on hand. So they do make this in a variety of different, like you can find lime and orange and other things like that, but it's lemons that I use the most. So this is the one I kind of like to have handy in case I need it for, a soup or a salad dressing or something like that when I don't have a lemon on hand. So that's what I do. I lost the sound, Amy.
Green Warriors, type in the comments if you've ever heard of any of these ways of storing lemons long term or having access to lemons for your recipes, or if you have something that you do instead. And I really wanted to talk about that because while Vicky and I were chatting about this, we also talked about the other methods, right, Vicky?
Right. So, there's, besides, are we talking about the powder? Do you mean the lemon?
Yeah, you talked about the lemon powder, but then we also talked about another way that we could store lemon juice.
So the other thing you can do, certainly, and maybe many of you have tried this, is you can actually put it into ice cube trays. You can make your own lemon juice and then have it ready. Or you can use something like this, which is made by Super Cubes that comes in many different sizes. But this particular one, which is, I think 2 tablespoons is each, it's marked at 1 tablespoon and 2 tablespoons. So you can make little amounts of this in small quantities and have as much as you want on hand for later. And then they've got these, plastic lids that are interchangeable with all of the different shapes. And while we're talking about Super Cubes, it's just a product that I like. This is 2-cup sizes, nice for leftover sauces or soups. I have it in all the sizes they make. This one's 1/2 cup, which is nice for leftover, it could be a sauce or it could be rice or things like that you might use later in a recipe or just to be able to pop out and add to a salad or whatever you might want to use them for. But they come in the 2 cup, the 1 cup, the 1/2 cup, and then this 2 tablespoon size. And, a few other things they make as well. But I do think these are super handy, no pun intended, to have on hand for all of your, leftovers that you can have ready to grab and add to a meal or a recipe.
And I agree. We're going to try to put links to all these things in the show notes for you guys. And I agree so much that when I was preparing for the broadcast, I brought over my Super Cube.
I like that pattern, the confetti.
It's called cupcake sprinkles.
Yeah, I love that one.
It comes in pink also. And one of the things I like about the Super Cube, there's lots of things I like about it. One is that it also has a lid. Yeah. So you fill this up with, this one that I have is a 2-cup. And it has a marking on it for a 1-cup measurement as well, if you don't want to fill it all the way up. But if you fill this up, you could potentially spill it or whatever. So you do have this lid that comes and snaps on it. So you don't have to worry about it spilling when you try to put it in the freezer. And what I like about it also is that it is has a steel reinforced edges. So even though it's silicone and you see how you can turn it inside out, it's silicone and you can turn it inside out on this part where you can pop out your frozen thing. But the rest of it is very sturdy. So you can carry it and you're not going to have a problem with anything wobbling around like some silicone things do.
Right.
And I love the 2-cup one because I will, after I get out of the freezer, I turn it upside down on top of the lid. And then that's when I'd start turning the vessels inside out, the individual and inside out. And then they wind up on the tray. I make this into a tray. And that, if I take 2 of those, that will make 8 servings. I can fit 8 of them into a gallon Ziploc bag and then freeze that.
Right.
I love to I batch cook mushrooms and put them in there. I love it for soups because that's what it was initially designed for, soups.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying because it comes in the different sizes that you like to use that little one for liquid things like lemon juice. And
yes,
what do you like to use yours for?
I like to do what you said for your larger ones. I put my leftover sauces and soup. So pasta sauce, a chili, any kind of vegetable soup that I might make. I'll get in here my lentil soups, my bean soups, things like that. So I definitely freeze my soups in the larger ones, usually using the 2-cup size. So this is a quart that this would hold. But I love to use these for all of my leftover batches of, after especially a day or 2 into the week where we've enjoyed the soup and maybe we're ready to try a new flavor of something. I might pop another flavor out and freeze something new. And then I do what you do. Once they're hard and solid, I pop them out from the bottom like you do and put them into a Ziploc bag. And sometimes I don't even do that. Sometimes I just leave them in here and just pop them out when I'm ready to warm them. But I do use these other sizes for other things. So this one might be for leftover brown rice or for quinoa, or for this one I might use, as we said, lemon juice, tomato paste, leftover things like that. And also this one I like to use for leftover herbs. So maybe it's the end of the week and you've got some leftover fresh basil or cilantro or parsley or whatever you might be using, and you want to make sure that it doesn't go to waste. You can just pop this into these containers, fill it with water and freeze it. And then when it's time to add it to a recipe, you can just, pop one of your ice cubes into it. So these just come in handy day after day. I really enjoy these.
They remind me of Instant Pots. You get one.
And then you want more.
You say, I think I need another one.
I think I can use.
Yeah, I had 2. Now I have 4, but I haven't invested in the smaller vessels. So I'm going to even try that too. And I'm glad you talked about the herbs because so many people think that the only way to freeze them is to put them in olive oil.
Right.
And you don't need olive oil, right?
Not at all. Don't need olive oil. And so, there's nothing you can't, your imagination can go wild. You can definitely freeze fruit and whatever you might want to. So it's a fun way to just kind of make sure that you try to reduce waste in your kitchen and get a chance to use all of those things down the road that you have.
Yeah. And you can reuse the Ziploc bags too if you're just using them to freeze some of those super cubes. But I like, and I like that you can just take one, put it in a bowl, pop it in the microwave, or put it on the stovetop. It doesn't take long, and now you've got a meal. So if you were running errands outside, and then you came home and you were hungry, you've got those batch cooked meals waiting for you in individual portions.
Absolutely,
easy, so easy.
Yeah,
very nice. Okay, well, and I think that somebody, being acknowledged that I had no idea about the lemons. Thank you. And let's see. Oh, and Fix It Rick said, I like the powder idea.
Very handy.
Yes, very, very nice. Okay. All right. So our next true or false is true or false, Green Warriors, true or false, using frozen fruits and vegetables is less nutritious than using fresh ones in plant-based cooking. What do you think about that? Okay, Vicky?
It is not less nutritious. It's equally nutritious, sometimes even more so, because many times the fruits and vegetables are frozen more quickly than you would get them if they were shipped to your store. So it's also less expensive in many cases than buying fresh, and they're already pre-washed and a lot of times pre-chopped and so forth. So it can be a tremendous time saver, money saver, and still getting all the nutrition that you'd be getting with the fresh. Now, I won't say that there isn't sometimes a bit of a change in the texture. So there could be a compromise, and sometimes there's a better fit for using frozen than other times, but it's a great backup to always have a nice full stash in your freezer of a mix of fruits and vegetables that are frozen. I love to have those. I use them all the time.
Yeah, that's a really great tip. I'm glad that we talked about that. It's so important to have them on hand, and some people have their fresh produce doesn't do well in the refrigerator because they haven't cooked it right away. And of course, we know that what's the best way to keep your produce from going bad in the refrigerator, and that is to eat it, right?
That is right.
And there's always a way, if it's about to go south, just grab it and you can roast it. You can make it into a smoothie. You can put it in a soup. You can make it into a salad. There's always ways to save that produce. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Roasting's one of my favorite ways with vegetables for sure. I love to roast.
Okay. Well, I think that we're going to segue into your recipe demo so that we can make sure we have time for that. And also, after Chef Vicky does this wonderful recipe demo for us, she's going to be showing us some of her favorite gadgets and maybe talk about some other tips also. So we've still got lots to learn and lots of fun things happening. So are you ready?
I'm ready. That sounds great. Let's get these cookies going, and then we can put those into the oven and we can chat some more while they're baking. So we're going to start with our recipe for the espresso oatmeal cookies, as we were talking about. And I've got my ingredients measured because that way it always comes together a little bit more quickly. So I'm starting with just 1.5 cups of rolled oats, and I'm putting everything into the bowl because I like to make things easy. So all of my recipes pretty much go into a single bowl. There's very little exception to that rule, that just things are always super easy, because that's how I like to bake myself. So the next thing I'm putting in is 1/2 of a cup of dark Nespresso. It's actually a espresso blend, and it's decaf. I'm using a decaffeinated one today because I may want to have these, and of course you can use regular espresso or just a dark roast coffee, but I'm using this decaf because a lot of times I kind of get a craving for something sweet in the evening, and I don't want to have something that had coffee at that time of day. So I'm putting in 1/2 cup of that. And again, it can just be a leftover dark, brewed coffee or a drip coffee. I'm using an espresso blend that is decaf already. And then I'm adding 1/3 of a cup of date syrup. And I like to use date syrup because it'll add some sweetness for us, but it's just basically a fruit with one ingredient, dates only. And it helps us to, it just metabolizes a little bit more optimally for most of us. And we are avoiding any kind of, highly processed sugar this way. And then I'm adding some almond butter, 1/3 of a cup of almond butter, 1/3 of a cup of the date syrup, both of them 1/3 cup. Mentioned that it was 1/2 a cup of the coffee, decaf, and 1.5 cups of the rolled oats. And then I'm adding peanut powder or almond powder, either one actually you can add here. And this is an ingredient that we'll talk about in a moment too. But I like to have this as sort of an additional opportunity to add more flavor and kind of bind things together without the extra fat. So I've just got this powder, which is really functioning like flour in here for me because I don't have any flour. The oats themselves are going to stay whole because we're not blending it in a blender. So they're going to be kind of chunky. And then I'm adding some vanilla. I'm saying about 1.5 teaspoons. And then we're adding some baking soda and baking powder. And that's everything. Now we're just going to stir. I'm going to switch to a wooden spoon here. And we're just going to give this a stir. Meanwhile, I have preheated my oven to 350. And then all we're going to do at this point is just stir this mixture together until we've got a nice batter that will look like an oatmeal cookie batter with the darkness added and flavor of the vanilla and the coffee and the dates syrup. So it really has a nice fragrance already. And it's this easy, literally that easy. I'm going to give it like 1 or 2 more stirs, but this is done. So this is fun to have a recipe like this that you can put together this quickly, this easily, stick it into the oven. It's going to take about 10 minutes, and you can have a treat, without waiting very long. So it's kind of gratifying. These also freeze well. So if you have leftovers, you can stick a few in a freezer for another time. And then this whole recipe will make about 12 to 14 cookies. And so the next step that I'm going to do at this point is just to put them on my baking sheet, and then we'll get them into the oven. So I have here a baking sheet, just an old cookie sheet that I have covered with a baking mat, a silicone baking mat. Silpad is one of the brands that you've probably heard before, but different brands make this. And so now I'm going to take a cookie scoop, that's called. It's basically like a little ice cream scoop. You don't need to do this. You could do this in a different way with a spoon, but I'm just putting, it's approximately 2 tablespoons size, maybe slightly bigger. You could make this any size you want, as long as they're all about the same about the same size. That's the idea. And then if they're the same size, they'll bake for the same amount of time. It just helps with your baking. They could be half the size. They could be giant. You can do anything you want because these are your cookies. It may just adjust the time in the oven if they're slightly different than I'm doing. So I'm just putting 8 on this sheet at this point, and then I'm going to have some extra batter to make another little bit later. We'll just move this off to the side. And then what I'm going to do now is, these aren't going to spread very much, so I'm just going to flatten them a little bit. I'm just using my hands. And so I'm flattening them a little bit because so that they'll kind of bake all the way through and be a little bit more like your standard traditional cookie shape. And there we go. So now we're ready to stick this into the oven, and we're going to bake this for just about 10 minutes until they feel kind of firm on the top. So here we go, into a 350 oven. And now I'll set my timer. There we go. So we can chat some more while those are baking.
That was awesome. I mean, you didn't even need any kind of fancy mixer or anything. You just used a spoon to mix it up, and that was a great tip with the ice cream scoop too. I like that.
Yeah, and those scoops come in many different sizes, so those are fun to have on hand for all kinds of baking needs. I do have a couple of other sizes of those that I like to use as well for similar kinds of applications, other kind of baked goods or things like that. So I do like those a lot. Those are handy.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you can freeze them because do you ever try to put parchment paper in between them when you freeze them? What do you do? Do they
I usually don't need to. They don't seem to stick to each other, but of course you certainly could do that, or wax paper in between. I usually will kind of put them flat, and maybe that's why, and then in a zip bag of some sort, or one of those stasher bags. And then once they're frozen, you have a little more flexibility with how you want to store them from then on, if you want to stack them into another container or something like that. But yeah, I find that works really well, and they don't seem to stick together. And
we like to batch cook oatmeal cookies and things at home too. And so when you take it out of the freezer, do you like to just pop it in the microwave real quick if you want to have it right away? Or
yes,
what do you like
I would definitely do that if I wanted to have it right away. but I have to say that even when these are cold, they're still really good. So, it's really nice with a cup of tea in the afternoon or a cup of coffee if you are a person who drinks coffee, or, just put in a lunchbox or to have in the evening as a snack. They also make really nice ice cream sandwiches. So they're also good, once they come out of the oven and cool, to just stick some homemade ice cream or nice cream in between, and they're delicious that way as well.
Yeah, so there's so many ways, and we can actually have a lot of treats. I like them because they're just so portable. So if you're going somewhere and people are going to have some treats, and that you probably don't want to eat the treats that they're having because they're not going to be healthy, you can bring those along with you, and always know that you have something to enjoy, but you better bring enough to share, right?
I think that's right. It's fun to share. It's very nice for a potluck, but also just because it's delicious, you don't feel deprived when you see other people eating things that maybe aren't so good for them, when you've got something that tastes delicious. And I feel like that's such an important key to making this lifestyle sustainable, is taking care of yourself and making sure you've got the things you need to, be able to grab for a delicious treat and feel like, you really feel very satisfied because it kind of checks all the boxes.
Yeah, I think so. Fix It Rick said peanut butter powder without extra fat. Fascinating.
Yes. And so it's so interesting. I was actually just ordering some today, and I used to be able to get this type of thing, a peanut powder in a bag at Trader Joe's. And similarly to Amy, you and I were talking about chocolate chips right before we went on. There's some products at Trader Joe's that kind of come and go, and this was one of them. They don't carry peanut powder, at least at my store, anymore, and they don't carry the chocolate chips that don't have sugar added to them anymore either. But I have found a way to get them through Amazon, so I do a little bit of shopping there as needed to fill in. And they now make things that they call PB2 is one of the brands that they make, something called PB2 Pure, I think is what it's called, for their peanut powder. Their cashew powder, they just call PB2 cashew powder, but it's one ingredient. It's cashews only. The peanut powder, you do need to read the labels because some of them have salt, or I don't mean salt, some of them have sugar, and maybe other things too. I think some of them are flavored with chocolate and different things like that. But if you take the time to look, there are a few brands out there that make cashew, almond, and peanut powders only with one ingredient. And I find them really helpful to add flavor to a smoothie, to your oatmeal. In baking, it kind of functions as a flour in this way, like we were doing today. But it's really a nice product to have on hand, and they have figured out a way to, through freeze, I don't think it's freeze dried. I'm not even sure what the process is. Are you?
No, because I had heard of the PB2,
Yeah.
and I looked at the ingredients, and I said, not for me. And
Yeah.
then I never even looked again for a powdered nut because of that. So now you've discovered this, so maybe
Yeah.
And this, great. Yeah.
It's a reduction. This one says no sugar, no salt added. This is cashew powder. I've used this instead of cashews in some of my dressings and baked goods as well. And I do like to be able to have the flexibility that maybe sometimes I want the whole nut. Sometimes maybe I feel like I've overindulged a little bit. I want to pull back on the fat for the next week or something like that. And so this particular product has, for 2 tablespoons is 60 calories, which just gives you an idea.
Oh yeah.
I think, it's a big reduction over what 2 tablespoons.
Yeah, you wouldn't have 2 tablespoons
of cashews for that. Right?
Cashews, it'd be at a 0 or so.
Yeah. Yeah, at a 0, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's
nice. Yeah. So it's a nice product to have again in your pantry. And I think that for those of us that, like to bake and like to have the ability to create things, recipes like we're talking about at a whim, you're just kind of in the mood for something. And I think that's kind of the joy of those of us who create our own food at home, that you can have anything you're in the mood for because you can create it anytime you want. If you can kind of make it easy enough by having some things on hand, like some of these shelf stable products that can kind of serve as staples for mixing and matching in recipes. And then you've got the ability to put together a quick cookie or a brownie or a cupcake or whatever you might be in the mood for.
Yeah, and I think also for some people who if they have nuts around the house, they won't last long and it won't go into a recipe. So to have the ability to have the powder, and
what a great
likely, right?
Yeah, what a great point, because this is not really snackable as it is. It's a product that is an ingredient in a recipe. I'm not saying you couldn't take a spoonful of it if you wanted to, or reconstitute it and eat it that way, and maybe you would enjoy that. I don't know. I haven't done that, but I suspect it wouldn't be quite as satisfying as in that way. But it might do the trick if you just really wanted some nut butter and be maybe a healthier way to well, again, depending on your goals, because some people are happy eating whole nuts, and many times that's me, but I do try to limit it so that I don't overindulge. And yeah, you'd never be tempted like you might be with a bag of cashews to eat too much of something like this, I think, but yet it'll still give you that creaminess in a salad dressing or in a mac and cheese sauce that the real whole nuts will do. This you just reconstitute this with some water, so you don't even need to reconstitute it before you add it to the recipe.
Right.
It'll kind of do its own thing in there with the other liquids you've used. So I'm just checking on my timing. I'm down to 1 minute.
Oh boy, I'm excited to see that. Do you want to tell us about those chips, those chocolate chips? Because I think
yes,
you
we
had
were
mentioned
just talking about those too.
Yeah.
Another product that I really like, and I may give this 1 more minute because they're a little bigger than the 2 tablespoon size that I've said. But I like to use chocolate chips in lots of things. And over the years, I've gotten a little bit fussier about what is an okay chip to me. I love chocolate, and I really try to have the kind of chocolate that doesn't have any sugar added. And I used to find chocolate chips that were available that were unsweetened and be able to, again, over the years, originally I used to use more chocolate chips with sugar, and I was okay with that. But now for me, I try to have less sugar. So again, it's a personal choice. But now you can find this product. It's made by, there's other brands too, but this one is made by the Hu brand, HU, like human. And it's a product that is sweetened now with dates. So it's just cacao and dates are the sweetener, and it's just a dark chocolate chip that's completely vegan, no cane sugar, no oil or, emulsifiers or anything like that. It's just a really pure product. And I think they sell this on Amazon, single package, or maybe buy 2 or 3 of them. I'm trying to remember how many I bought of this, but now you can feel good about if you're eliminating sugar, and not everybody is, I know. But if you are sugar-free, then this is a nice way to have a date sweetened chocolate chip. And you can find them by different brands, but this one just really looks like regular, the chocolate chips we're familiar with. And they're, just really lovely. So they're nice on, on top of a cookie or on top of a baked good. Mixed into an ice cream or whatever you might like to have. And they smell really good. It's just cacao and dates. So it's really
so nice. It's such a nice resource, because I had been avoiding chocolate chips because over the years, every time I would look at them and the ingredients, I would find ingredients that weren't aligning with what I wanted to include. So that's a great thing to know.
Yeah,
so we're learning so much.
Yeah, I think that's a great product out there for those of us that are, kind of chocoholics. So it's, I'm going to pull these cookies out now.
Okay. And I'm going to talk while you do that. So while Chef Vicky is pulling out those things, I'm going to share with you that another thing that I like, which is these silicone bags. So if you don't like to use the disposable bags, these are Ziploc bags. I'm going to open them up and show you the inside, because they I don't know if you can see it or not, but so you can actually zip them closed, and then you can put all kinds of things in here. I wouldn't put liquid unless you were freezing it, but then they are freezer safe. And they come in all kinds of colors and all kinds of sizes. They come in big sizes, small sizes, all kinds of ways. And I'll put links to these also. They even come in in tall sizes. So sometimes I want to take a sweet potato with me, a baked sweet potato. I'll stick it in this bag and take it along with me. And it's really very convenient and very nice. And I'm not, so this way I can reduce my use of plastic when I do that. Okay, so do we have, oh, look at this.
Yes.
We have to
I want
zoom
to
in
tell
on
you,
this.
Amy, I use these too, and I love them. They're so nice for freezing leftover cookies, things like this, or baked goods of all different shapes and sizes. I have some larger ones that I put sauces in. I have them in a bunch of different sizes, and they're really nice to help avoid freezer burn as well. I think they work really well. So I like to keep those on hand too. So yes, our cookies are out of the oven, and this is what they look like.
Oh, wow. Look at those. Delicious.
So it's just about 10 minutes in the oven. I might have left it in an extra half a minute or so because they're just slightly bigger than.
And because you use that silicone mat to line your cookie sheet, you didn't have to put any kind of oil or butter or anything on it, right?
That is absolutely right, because this is a nonstick baking mat that will make life very easy when you're ready to pull one off. I'm going to give it just a minute while we're chatting before I scoop one up to show you what it looks like on the plate, but this gives you an idea. And so as they cool, you can just imagine, they smell really, really
I can
good.
just imagine.
I mean, this is making me want to have, a couple of cookies right now, and freeze a few as well for another time, but that they're so good. I mean, this would be nice to put a few chocolate chips on too, right? Maybe we'll do that. Why don't we see what happens?
And it's not too late. It's
not too late. They're still warm.
Look at that.
They're still warm. I'm just inventing this idea right now with you because I'm thinking this will turn it into kind of a mocha. And why not?
Oh, look at that, Green Warriors. Oh, that's going to be, I cannot wait. Oh, and Vegan Knowledge JJ said the peanut butter powder is also a great option for those with teeth issues. That's a very good point.
Yeah, it's a nice way for people who love that flavor to be able to enjoy without having to, worry about the stickiness of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would be putting chocolate chips in because I do love oatmeal cookies, but I love chocolate, and it just takes it up another level for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really good. I really like these chocolate chips. I'm so happy that I've discovered these, and it's a really nice answer for those of us that are trying to avoid the sugar. So I'll show you just a couple of these up close here. We've got a couple that we're experimenting, putting some chocolate chips on the top as they're cooling as well.
How nice is that? Wow.
Yeah.
That's just beautiful. Very nice. So did you want to let them cool a little bit more? And
I'm going to give it another minute if I can, and then I'll show you another.
Share something else with us that you have.
So let me tell you, I'll show you a couple of things that this was the brand that I found, just happened to, I'm not brand loyal necessarily on these products. I just look for whatever I can find at the time that matches what I want, which is a single ingredient in these powders. So
and there's a point to that, because sometimes you have to read the labels every once in a while on the brands that you already thought were good, because sometimes they change.
They really do.
Ingredients.
Yeah, so I find that with, for example, the vegetable broth that I use from time to time. I read the label every single time I buy it, because sometimes they have switched who is supplying it, and they've added sugar or salt or sugar or oil, and I don't want that. So this is a peanut, the PB2 cashew powder that I'm pleased with right now that I've been using. This is an almond powder made by Barney. This is a product that I found on Amazon. Actually, this I found, I think, in a local health food store. This one I found on Amazon. I also like to use, this is another product that, and there's many nice brands, but we have a local store in Michigan that in Ann Arbor that is called Fustini's, that makes wonderful flavors of balsamic vinegar. with no sugar added. And you also may know about California balsamic, which you can send away for, and that's also
Yeah,
delicious.
I've had him on the show a few times.
I
and
love
he
them. Yeah, Thomas, so great. And I
Yeah.
have several of his flavors, and I use them over and over. But we also, discovering your own local,
Yes, to
resource is a
support
nice
the
idea
local
to support
businesses.
local.
Yeah.
And probably many of our viewers have something in their city that they may not have checked out yet. A local
Because
oil
sometimes
and
the
vinegar store.
storefront says olive oil on the sign.
Well, it does. And
And
they call
oftentimes,
this oils and vinegars. Half of their store of this brand,
yeah,
Fustini's in Ann Arbor, half of it is oils and half of it is vinegars. So, of course, I only go to the vinegar
yeah.
side, but there's so many delicious ones. This is a fig vinegar. I have their Traverse City cherry. I have many different flavors. Anyways, I love these flavors to use in balsamic, glazing, whether it's roasted vegetables, salad dressings, marinades, things like that. So I do love those. I was also mentioning that I love these little grippers that I found. They're made by Pampered Chef, and they're silicone grippers that are really nice for picking up something hot, including when you're trying to get the pot out of the Instant Pot at the end of the cooking process with that small lid, the little rim, I should say, around the top of the vessel. So I use these a lot for just picking something hot up out of another container. And another product that I really like, now we're moving into equipment rather than food, but I really love having an immersion blender that I use in creaming soups so that I don't have to take it out of that container that I cooked it in, usually an Instant Pot. My brand that I use is different from Instant Pot. It's called Zavor, and I really like that brand. But the same idea of a pressure cooker. And then I use an immersion blender right inside of it to blend into a creamy soup. And that's a really handy way to not have to make another, container messy that you have to wash. So that's one of my favorites. My food processor I love. That's my Breville. I use my Vitamix all the time. And now I want to just mention these because I love these ideas of the baking containers. This is a little brownie bites pan that is made by Wilton. And this is more flexible, as Amy was talking about with the super cubes. They have that nice metal rim around them. This one doesn't. It's more floppy, but I don't find it's a problem. It just goes right into the oven. I make little banana bars in here, little brownies, all kinds of fun stuff. This is available on Amazon for about like $8, made by Wilton. Another brand that makes the same idea of baked silicone bakeware is Trudeau. And this one does have the metal handles and a metal rim. It's much more sturdy, but it does cost more. These are more like, 20 to 30, not quite sure how much, but they do come in many, many different shapes. So this is a muffin shape. There's a mini muffin pan size. They also make this same idea of the brownie bites shape. They make little bundt cake sizes, I think. They make bars, all kinds of fun shapes. And I have these type of bakeware, silicone bakeware, in about, 4 or 5 different shapes because I use them all the time. And again, same idea as with the Super Cubes brand that we talk about for storing your leftover batch cooked recipes. These have that same advantage of being able to avoid using oil. And after your recipe is all done and you've allowed your cupcakes or your muffins to cool, you can just pop them right out from below without having used any oil. And they clean up very nicely. You can put these right into the dishwasher or hand wash if you prefer.
Yeah, but I like how they clean up because unlike conventional muffin pans, you can turn each of the vessels inside out.
You can.
And you can clean it if you have a very sticky kind of recipe. Some of my, we have like a fudgy kind of chocolate cake that we make. And it doesn't stick, but sometimes there's a little bit of the remnants on there. It comes off easily, but I just like, since I'm popping them out anyway, I just totally push them all the way inside out while I'm popping them out. And then when I clean it, I'm instead of trying to get into each individual whole, I can
That's a
just
great
clean
point.
it that
Yeah,
way.
that's a great point. I was just washing one out today, and just like you said, nothing sticks, but sometimes there's a little residue of a little few crumbs or something that might be a little sticky. And so, yeah, I find just with a rubber glove and, my finger just kind of going around it a couple of times in each well, it tends to get it all ready for the dishwasher, and then I'm pretty set to go after that. But they just clean up really well. You can use them over and over. I've been literally using these for many, many years and so happy with them. Let's see, what other things did I want to tell you that I love to use? I feel like I've got a couple other things, little tools here. Okay, here's another couple while we're at it that I like. This is something that I found at Sur La Table, and it's for avocados. It's a multi-use tool that has a flexible gripper here that allows you to scoop an avocado with. So it's got a semi-sharp, it's just plastic, so I can touch this with my finger and it won't hurt me at all. But it's sharp enough, thin enough, I should say, and firm enough that you can use this to actually scoop out an avocado. I'll bet you could do the same thing with a mango, but I haven't tried that. So it's got this ability to scoop out the inside of the avocado. It's got these little teeth grippers here to pull the pit out of the middle. And it's even got another little plastic blade here. It's plastic, so again, it's not very sharp, but it's sharp enough to be able to slice your avocado. So this was actually a gift from Sur La Table that my son got me, but it's really fun because you can do everything you need to do with your avocado: pit, scoop, slice already with this one little tool. It's kind of handy.
I've tried that knife method that people do where they cut the avocado and then they whack the knife onto the pit, and it just never felt very safe.
Exactly. I love that this just grips with the teeth here instead, and it really works well. It really does grab it and pull it out. So I do like that. This is another fun, I'm trying to remember the name of this. This is a dual-handled, the name is escaping me now, but it's a nice knife blade made by Wusthof. But
Is it a Mandola?
Missoula.
Mezzaluna.
Mezzaluna, I think is what
combining
it is.
mandolin and
Yes, like
Missoula in one word,
half
making up
moon.
the word.
I think you may know
Missoula.
Italian. I think that's Mezzaluna. That's like half moon or something. I'm not sure if that's the right translation, but it's a nice way to chop up fresh herbs. And so I do like this. It's a nice way to kind of finely mince things. And then I do have this handy, which is just a little melon baller. And I like to use this to scoop out a core from an apple or a pear that I might be using, to stick into the oven and bake with maybe cinnamon and granola on top, something like that. And another little tool that I found recently is you've seen these before that slice apples, but this one slices it into like 16 pieces. And so I really like this because the pieces are smaller. And so it kind of feels like you're having more, a longer time to enjoy your snack, and that the pieces are each a little more manageable. And then it's got this thing at the bottom, a base, that once you have chopped it, so you are going, using this to lower on the piece of fruit until you get down to the board that you're cutting it on. And then you lift it up with the apple kind of sticking to it. And from below, you snap the bottom in, which releases all of them. Because I don't know if you've ever had the problem that I've had, which is that they stick once they're cut. They don't come out.
You're trying to stick your fingers without cutting yourself.
Yes, and you don't want to do that because that sharp stuff's at the bottom. And so what this is doing is got bumps in between the blades. So it's pushing your apple out onto, your board. So I think that's a fun one. And this is just one last thing I wanted to just share, which is I do a lot of work in a roasting pan, a nonstick roasting pan. I use Scan Pan as my favorite brand in the oven. But I found this recently, which is like kind of a shovel that helps to kind of move things around while you're, roasting or using with a big batch of something that's, to move around. And I find this really a handy tool that's kind of a combination of a scoop, kind of a spoon, and a spatula at the same time. This I got from Williams-Sonoma. And I think it's made by OXO, actually. So it might be available elsewhere too.
Yeah, that almost reminds me of those little shovels that you use with the kids at the beach.
I know, doesn't it? I was
Yeah.
thinking the same thing, like with the sand boxes. Yeah, exactly.
I'm very serious about my food. And you just show that, and people will definitely know that you're serious. And with that Apple gadget, what I like to do, I don't have the 16 one, but I'm going to be getting it after this broadcast. I like to use it I'll cut off the ends of kiwis, and then I'll slice my kiwi that way. And of course, I'm eating the whole part of the kiwi, including the skin, but it just makes it quicker to cut up a kiwi. And then when I do cut up my apples, and I tell my clients this, who have trouble with what to do about snacking when they're on the go. So what I tell them to do is to cut the apple. And then after you release the apple out of the apple slicer, get a rubber band and reassemble the apple with the core. Put the rubber band around it, and then stick it in a Ziploc bag or one of these silicone bags that we talked about. And now you don't have to worry about it going brown. You might have a couple of little brown spots, but otherwise, no, it's going to be just like you just freshly sliced this apple.
What a nice idea. Yeah. I love that.
And you have the bag. So it's right in the bag, and you can just eat it out of the bag.
So here's our cookies, and they're ready to enjoy. I wish I could share with you all.
I know. We're all just going to have to make it and then put in the comments what we did, if we did it with or without chocolate chips.
Yeah.
So, they just look lovely. Oh, I'm so happy that you shared that with us. Whoa, everybody click like for Vicky, because that was an awesome recipe that she shared. And it was just so easy and quick.
Nice and easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now these are all, like, this is, it's only been a couple of minutes, but yeah, these are all ready to plate. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay. And while Vicky's looking for a plate, I'm going to tell you about, I have another gadget that I like to use, and this is a Ninja chopper. And what I like about this Ninja chopper is this is the top with the motor, and then this is the bottom part here, and it has a lid. And then it has the blades. Very simple to take apart and clean. And I use this to chop up nuts, or if I want to make oats into an oat flour. And then you just put this on here, and the motor goes here, and you just pulse. You push on the pulse button, pulse. And it'll just zip up things so quickly. If you wanted to chop up carrots into tiny pieces, and you control how little or big the pieces go, it's endless, the possibilities. I have this, and I use this every day. There's always something that I can do with this wonderful machine. And you don't say, oh, I have to clean this out or whatever, because that's always a problem sometimes with people, because they don't want to get out the machine because it's so much difficult to clean up. And this one, because it has that lid, you can just, if you're not ready to use it all, you can just use it as a storage container too. You can take out the blade and just put that red lid on top and keep it in the refrigerator. So that's one of my favorite gadgets too. Let's watch Vicky plate, because that's so fun. Oh
yeah, just the plain ones without the chocolate chips, or the chocolate chip style. You choose.
Oh, that's hard to do.
But how easy was this, right? I mean, we mixed it together in really like just probably about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes in the oven, and then they're ready. And you can have these cookies ready to eat tonight.
Oh, wonderful. So I'd probably have to make more than one tray.
Well, I'll probably bake that second batch.
Yeah, because I mean, you're smelling it and everything. And it's great because people talk about eating cookie dough. I mean, while you're making it, you could take some, right?
Absolutely.
And just eat it without baking it if you wanted to.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no, nothing in here that would be a problem. There's no eggs or any kind of problem at all. So it's all fully digestible, ready to eat ingredients. So absolutely.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So we have some questions that came in. Victor Laviola, Greenings, Victor, nice to have you here. Wants to know, what do you use as a substitute for mayonnaise? That's a good question. What do you like to use? Do you ever make mayonnaise?
So I don't make the one from scratch that a lot of people use tofu for. You can use the soft tofu. I actually usually use a non-dairy, Kite Hill is a brand I like, unsweetened plain yogurt as my base. And then I just add flavors to that depending on what I'm in the mood for. So it might be fresh herbs. It might be a little salsa. Sometimes I just add a little mustard or a little sugar-free barbecue sauce to it, depending again on what I'm using it for. Like if I'm dipping, air-baked fries or something like that. But I also sometimes use a hummus, like if I'm making a chickpea salad instead of mayo. So it kind of depends, but I usually go to one of those two sides of things as a place to start to create. I'm thinking my potato salad. Yeah, everything. Sometimes I use a base that starts with cashews and make it kind of creamy from there with a little lemon juice and maybe a little salt and a little herbs and things like that. So maybe a little mustard. So kind of depends on the flavor. I have a few different versions in my the Plant-Based for Life cookbook that I use instead of mayo.
Okay, well, that's a good resource. That's a very good resource to look for some recipes. And I have the book, and it's a wonderful book, and it has so many wonderful recipes in it. And I'm looking forward to also checking out that ebook too.
Thank you, Amy.
And Jesus Junkie said, is there a plant-based serving size for quinoa? Oh, we love this question.
So, I think that it's whatever is satisfying for you along with other healthy foods. So if you fill your plate with quinoa and fresh vegetables and some cooked vegetables and maybe some tofu or tempeh or beans or something else that kind of feels like a nice addition, just eat and enjoy. And if you want more, have more of all of the above. And, there's plenty of fiber and nutrients in all those foods that we just mentioned. So I'd say just enjoy and don't worry too much about the serving size. I think that people do tend to worry about it because of the culture we're surrounded by. But, just half a cup, 2 cups, whatever it is that makes you feel nice and happy is, right for you.
I love this lifestyle because we don't have to weigh, we don't have to measure, we don't have to count, as long as we're eating whole food, plant-based foods that come from nature. And of course, it's always a good idea to try to incorporate as many greens as you can, leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. But other than that, we really don't have to weigh and measure. But there is one time that we do. And the one time that we have to measure is when we're making a delicious recipe like Vicky's. Right? That's the only time we measure.
That's pretty much right. And, I come from a history where I was measuring. I tried a lot of different diets before I found the truth that, of the plant-based lifestyle. But years and years ago, after when I first had my kids and I, gained that extra 10 or 15 pounds I couldn't figure out how to get rid of, I experimented with all kinds of unhealthy ways to lose weight. And I was measuring and it wasn't working. I was measuring back then, like my skim milk, before I discovered how bad dairy is for us. But, I was measuring that in my cereal and I found everything. Not only did I not lose weight, but I was always hungry. And so it was just the most miserable way to try to. And so, of course, I gave up and I did this over and over, I can think of 3 or 4 times, particular South Beach, Atkins, all kinds of bad choices that I learned from, though. But of course, when I figured out the wonderful, truth about plant-based life, never looked back. And now, we don't measure. We don't have to measure. We just eat healthy foods and enjoy them.
Because measuring food is like trying to breathe less times per minute. Maybe short term you can do it, but eventually you got to.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting, and we're really not meant to do that.
No,
we're not meant to find what makes us feel good and happy and healthy. The food that nurtures us, that our brain needs to be, to get energy. The food that helps our digestion, helps us reduce cholesterol, helps us, naturally, all the foods that are full of fiber and nutrients that we're talking about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
These are treats that we're talking about now. So these aren't necessarily things that you're going to eat every day, but they're the kinds of ingredients that even if you did have a little bit of a treat now and then, even daily, I think most people would probably be okay. But of course, what we're talking about is the base of this kind of lifestyle is all of these healthy vegetables and starches that are, whole grain foods and legumes and nuts and seeds and sweet potatoes and quinoa and brown rice and all of these wonderful whole foods that nature made for us. That's what we're meant to eat.
Yep, absolutely. So we have a question from Vegan Knowledge JJ. Want to know, is there any info on avocados? I found you can ripen them in a paper bag with banana. However, I try to put them in the fridge to keep them from getting overripe. Do you freeze them?
I haven't had great success freezing them, although I know you can. We do put them in the refrigerator to keep them from getting overripe. I have heard people who put them into like a bowl of water and, some other things. So I don't have great experience freezing them, but I think you can. There might be someone else in the audience who had better luck with that. But yeah, we refrigerate them instead, and that works well.
Yeah, there's something that we have, which is I think it's called a seal meal or something, and it has a roll of plastic that you can cut into individual bags, and it has suction power to it, so that when you choose the size of your bag and you put whatever you want to freeze in it, then you put it onto the machine and it sucks the air out of the machine. So oftentimes we'll use that to freeze things that we really want to make sure are going to stay fresh. And I've heard that some people try to put some lemon juice in with the avocado before they do that. And but we don't use as much avocado maybe. But that is something that we have done. So
yeah, I don't either. I don't use it that much, but my husband likes them. So we do have them on hand a lot. And I know you can buy products that have lemon juice added to. I've seen them at Costco that are kind of like a guacamole. Many of them seem like they're not unhealthy ingredients added, and they do have lemon juice in them, and they're airtight and they freeze. I mean, you can unfreeze them. So I think you probably can freeze it, whether it's already whether it's whole or mashed, but that's not something that I have too much experience with.
Well, Green Warrior, please click like to show your appreciation for what Vicky shared with us today. There was just so much knowledge and so much sharing of information that we don't always find when we're looking on the internet for ways to learn about gadgets to use and about different cooking hacks and so forth. So go ahead and do that. And we're going to let Vicky talk about some of the things that she's been doing and how to get in touch with her. But before that, I had promised you that I was going to be doing this book giveaway. So we're going to be doing that right now. And that was for the book giveaway for Sid Notter's The Plan A Diet. And a lot of you have entered to win. And if you subscribe to begreenwithamy.com, you'll get notifications when these book giveaways come in, just as Chef Vicky is sharing her book giveaway, and we're going to be having information for that as well. So we're going to just start with our spinning wheel, and we're going to see who wins this book from Sid Notter. Yay, congratulations, Paula M. I'm going to be in touch with you and get your information so that I can share that with Sid so she can get that book out to you. I'm really excited for you that you were winning that. And it's always nice to get books like these because they have such great information. And also this recipe book, if you want to check that out, I'll put a link to that in the show notes from Chef Vicky's recipe book, which is a very lovely book, and we'll tell you about how you can enter to win for her new ebook. So that's going to be a good thing too. So lots of fun things happening out there, and I'm glad that you're here and that you tune in and subscribe so that you can learn all these things. So Vicky, tell us about what you do and how we can find you.
So Amy, thank you so much for this platform to share with everyone. I am actually a blogger, Ann Arbor Vegan Kitchen, Ann Arbor like the city. AnnArborVeganKitchen.com is my website and blog, and I have been blogging and sharing and creating recipes there since 2012. I'm also the author of the Plant-Based for Life cookbook, which is available through my website and also through Amazon. And this book has over 100 recipes. It's a collection of probably about 10 years worth of recipes that I've created that are all, again, plant-based, sugar-free, and oil-free. And there's all kinds of things in here. So again, each of these recipes also has a full page photograph that goes along with it. And there's, breakfast ideas, salads, soups, sandwiches, desserts, side dishes, all kinds of stuff in here as well. And my most recent project is, as we were talking about, my Feel Great Desserts ebook, which has over 80 pages of recipes that are all sugar-free, oil-free, and plant-based, and also gluten-free. And so in addition to these things as an author and of this book and a blogger, I'm also a culinary plant-based cooking instructor. So I do work with groups of all sizes in person and online. And I'm also a master vegan lifestyle coach. So I do work with people transitioning to a healthier lifestyle. I do that remotely or in person as well, and work with people for, a month at a time or 3 months at a time or 6 months at a time, whatever, individuals need. And I'm also a certified personal chef. So those are all the things that keep me busy and working, on all of these things, helping people transition to a healthier lifestyle.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. And you bring a lot of talents to this broadcast, and we always appreciate you having you on the show. And I'm going to put a link to other episodes that you've come on and shared other things with us as well. And so I just want to give you a huge thank you. I mean, you shared wisdom and culinary expertise, and you just had this infectious passion for plant-based living. And I really am so grateful for that. And I wanted to ask the Green Warriors, what is your final take-home message for today? So type that in the comments so people who come back to the broadcast can see what they missed. And one of my takeaways is about the PB2 powder that is now doesn't have the deleterious chemicals in it anymore. So that's a good thing I'm going to be looking for. Of course, the chocolate chips too.
Yes, chocolate chips and the lemon juice, right?
Yes, and the lemon juice. So we had a lot of takeaways today. We definitely did. And I hope that the Green Warriors can share what their favorite one is. And I also wanted to thank Jess Tess Voice. She did the promos, the countdown, the voiceover. She's so talented, and she helps get the word out about our broadcasts in so many ways, and we're really appreciative of all she does. And Jess Tess Voice, tell us who's coming up next.
Jennifer Diamond shares the highs and lows, victories and setbacks of her plant-based healing journey. She'll also demo her fruit tart cups recipe. Join us Wednesday, May 22nd, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, on Be Green with Amy Live.
And I want to thank you, Green Warrior, for joining us today. Your engagement and your support make these discussions meaningful and impactful. And I hope you're feeling inspired to take a closer look at your food choices and make some positive changes for your health and well-being. Because remember, every bite that we take is an opportunity to nourish our bodies and become the healthiest versions of ourselves. So please stay tuned for more empowering content. And please subscribe to my channel and to Vicky's channel and share my message with others who can benefit, because together as Green Warriors, we can make a meaningful difference in the world. And as a special thank you to all of you, I'm offering you 5 free recipes. So if you go to my website, begreenwithamy.com/join, I'll send you those 5 free recipes that are lots of flavor in those recipes. Very delicious. So I would like to invite all of you to go ahead and take your right hand and grab your left shoulder, and take your left hand and grab your right shoulder and squeeze. Because that's a hug from me to you and from me to you, Vicky. I just love having you on the show. And you guys, if you want to join me and Vicky, and we're going to be saying my tagline, and you can type it in the comments, and she's going to help me out at the end. Are you ready, Vicky?
I'm ready.
All right. Until I see all of you again, remember, Be strong, be well, and be green. Thanks, Chef Vicky. Thank you, Green Warrior. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you so much. Nice to have you.
Looking for really tasty recipes that are SOS free? No sugar, oil, or salt. How can it taste good? Well, if you like flavor, then you'll love this Be Green with Amy recipe ebook. Get your copy today. Click on the link in the show notes. Be strong, be well, and be green.